Yeah, welcome. We have Matt with us, Matt Leacock. So today we have Saturday, and we are just in front of the Spiel des Jahres ceremony, especially Kennerspiel des Jahres, because you have two games in the race. So how excited are you?
I'm really excited. It's such a treat to have two here. So I love the dinner tonight. Is always fun, and then the ceremony is always a pleasure.
So you are a great bet today, because if we bet our money on you, so 2/3 we are sure that you will win, right? So this is also very exciting.
It's far too much pressure.
So is this the first time that you're in Germany, or have you been here before during the other nominations?
I've been nominated, I think, 4 or 5 times, and I've gone for every time except Pandemic. So this is, I think, the 6th time. Yeah.
Okay, you're already used to that pressure, so I mean, you're a game designer rock star, if to say that, or at least to have this less exaggerating, very well established. Can you already make a living out of it? So do you have turned fully professional into game design already?
Yeah, it was 10 years ago, 4th of July, 10 years ago, that I went full-time as a game designer. So that was not something I expected being able to do, but it was very exciting to be able to chart my own destiny. Yeah, liked it very much.
So how did you get into game designing? So how did you evolve into that role?
Well, I loved games as a kid, but my uncle actually designed a game when I was young and played it, and then it suddenly occurred to me that games have designers, and I loved playing his prototype, and so not too long after I started making my own prototypes. So as a teenager, but it was always a hobby, and then it was a side hustle, and now it's a full-time job.
So perfect. So now let's turn to the two games that you have in the race. So the first one is Daybreak, which is in German E-Mission. So it's actually a wordplay in German. I don't know, it's E-Mission, right?
Yeah.
So the topic or the theme as such, so about climate change and doing something against this, was this right from the beginning set, or was this steampunk sci-fi in the beginning and the publisher said, no, we have to do something about climate change?
It was about climate from the very beginning. I was challenged to do a climate game based on Pandemic, actually, before I started on the game. And I didn't see how I could do that with Pandemic's engine. And then about 6 months later, I got interested again. It was during lockdown for COVID. And I thought, I had some anxiety about climate, so I thought, I'll investigate. And it was unlike my other games. This one was very heavily researched. And it was at that time that I started working with Matteo, and the two of us tackled it together.
Let's make a short detour on Pandemic, because I mean this is the game or variants of the game with which you became famous, right? So, so during COVID, did it hit you that you were kind of a prophet in terms of looking forward, seeing this coming for all of us?
It seemed very strange, very disorienting, because I thought, when I designed Pandemic, that those were things that happened to other people in other parts of the world. And so when it really happened, it was very, very odd and disorienting.
And did you also receive comments from others in terms of, hey, look, now what you have been designing in a game is now reality?
Yeah, very much so. The game got a lot of attention. I actually ended up writing an op-ed for the New York Times about it and started to think quite a bit about it. And that's actually one of the reasons why I got in touch with Matteo. He had seen that article.
Yes. Okay, now back to Daybreak. So you said that climate change and this topic was set already. I mean, there's a minority pretty vocal, which is definitely clearly or still denying, let's say, all of this. Did you also receive negative feedback regarding choosing that topic?
Yeah, we were really not trying to target those folks when designing the game. It's really about people who are curious or motivated. To date, I've only had one email that was, and I was so excited when I got it because it meant that the game had gotten a wider, attention. Okay. And I put it in my memorabilia file, and it's really something. But no, it's been overall, it's been really well received, and well received by both gamers and by climate folks as well. Really wanted it to work for both audiences. Yeah.
Perfect. How did you team up with Matteo? So how did that happen?
We met on Twitter, of all things. Yeah, and we didn't meet each other in person for 3 years. It took us 2 years to design it and then another year of product design. But we started a conversation online. We both had determined we had very similar goals in wanting to create a game. And once we had all that aligned, we just started a weekly meeting, and pretty soon we were working on a game together.
So, and you were connecting online, I guess, because you were in the US and Matteo in London, right? So,
yeah, there's a 8 hour time difference, so it would be my mornings and his late afternoons, evenings, and we found a rhythm that really worked well for us.
so usually from other game designers, we know that they early start to build prototypes and something like that, to also have the material in their hand to play around with this, to test it with others. So when you do this online and in a virtual, even with time zone differences, so how did you actually connect it to each other and to the game?
Yeah. Well, we shared the same digital files, and a lot of digital files, but then we would print it locally. So Matteo would have his prototypes and I'd have mine. And then we would do some online testing, but we also made physical prototypes and mailed them to people during lockdown. This is something I was doing at Pandemic already, shipping prototypes out and videotaping people as they played. So you get really good data with that. So it was actually not that hard during lockdown to do, because we just watched the tape and get really good data.
Okay, that's really interesting. Now maybe to the second game, so Ticket to Ride Legacy, or Zug Legacy as it calls in Germany. So this is also a very interesting crew of designers here, because you are one of them. There's Rob Davio, who's also a brilliant person because he invented this whole genre of legacy games, right? And we have Alan, who's the hero of Ticket to Ride, right? So how did you team up? So how did that get together?
Yeah, Alan approached Rob and myself about doing the project. We met together at a conference and he pitched the idea. I think he briefly considered doing it on his own and then tried for a little while and was like, no, I can't do this on my own. So he thought, oh, who should I approach? And of course our names came up. So we played around with the ideas for about a year and then we really got started. But the development of that one took quite a long time between the beginning and the end.
So what was the most challenging part there in the development? What would you say?
It's just a very big game. It's 12 games. Manufacturing a prototype takes a day and a half.
Oh, wow.
And, there's 12 of them, in a row, and then doing the mailing that I talked about. You're actually physically having to manufacture a lot. And then watching all that tape. I think it was just the scale of it was large.
I see.
But enjoyed every minute of it. They were really wonderful co-designers to work with.
And did you split your work in this? I mean, working in a couple, let's say, I believe it's probably easier, right? So in terms of communication, if you take three, and of course more people, also communication then gets harder. So did anyone or every one of you on its own piece of the games, or did you all go for the whole thing?
Yeah, we had kind of a rhythm where we'd all get together for design meetings and talk about the really important design decisions and come to some consensus. Yeah. And then we'd break off and sign up for different projects. So we'd break up all the work into little pieces, and then we'd sign up and then do them and then present them at the next design meeting. And I think we all had little specialties. Alan knew Ticket to Ride inside and out. So if there's anything Ticket to Ride specific, we put his name. He put his name down on that. Rob was sort of lead on story, and I did a lot of the lead work on like the industrial design, so the boxes that you see that fold in different ways, that was me. And also, we all worked on the design together though, so it was very collaborative.
That sounds very structured in the way of how you approach this. Did you also apply some sort of project management really for this, or? It's because this is not a hobby then anymore, right? So there's also then maybe pressure from a publisher and so on behind this. So do you also apply quite a structured process on top of it?
Yeah, I'm kind of the process guy of the group. So I came out of Silicon Valley and I was able to use a lot of my user experience design background and also just understanding how projects can be run. So we had lots of punch lists, lots of research logs, a design diary, prototypes, versioning. Yeah. And then Rob and I had kind of honed this approach, this research-driven kind of R&D and design approach during the Pandemic Legacy games. We were able to apply that
Is this also comparable to an agile approach in software development, or is this different?
I mean, I wouldn't say it's exactly agile, but definitely learned from those approaches. So you could think of it, we were kind of like doing sprints, you know, in a sense. Yeah, and very much learning from the customer feedback and integrating that into the next iteration and so on, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. That makes a whole lot of sense, right? So, because there's a lot of uncertainty also connected to it in terms of what problems you might encounter and what's coming or should come next, right? So, so how big is your pipeline now? Can you disclose anything about the next game that we will sit here maybe next year and and cross our fingers that you might get the Kennerspiel des Jahres?
Well, I'm not going to comment on that because I don't want to, never want to count those chickens at all. But yeah, I have a dexterity game coming out called Flickering Stars. That'll be previewed at Gen Con. Another cooperative adventure game with Rob for kids and families called Ziggurat. And then there's another 4 or 5 games coming out soon with more on the heels of those. So it's a big pipeline. I'm trying to reduce that a little bit for my own sanity.
To reduce it. Normally, designers try to actually pump up their pipeline, right? So because they have to send out many games to publishers and then they wait a month for feedback and so on. But probably not with you, right? So they react more quickly on your requests or turn to you directly, or how is it?
Well, I'd say that I think there's 4 games slated for next year, and the average amount of time that I've spent on those is about 5 years. So,
5 years.
Yeah, I think it's just a lot of games that have been in development a long time are just all kind of coming out now. Yeah.
Wow, that's super impressive. So we're definitely looking forward to this. I have to say, I need to thank you a lot so that you have taken your time for our small channel to give us an interview. And of course, we hope the best for you for tomorrow so that you really get the Kennerspiel des Jahres.
Oh, thanks so much. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.